Good day everyone, this is Mathematics Paper 2 Grade 12 Statistics. Question 1. The truck drivers travel a certain distance and have a rest before traveling further. A driver kept record of the distance he traveled in kilometers on 8 trips, right? And the amount of time he rested in minutes before he continues this journey. The information is given in the table below. So this is the distance he traveled and this is the amount of rest time in minutes. Okay, so then now 1.1. Determine the equation of least square regression. The equation of least square regression for the data. So then now the equation of least square regression goes like this. It is y is equal to a plus bx, right? So then now you insert this information into your calculator. I'm sure by now you know how to insert this data into your calculator so that you can get the value of a, the value of b, and sometimes the value of r if it is going to be asked. Right, therefore if you insert this data into your calculator, this is your x variable and this is your y variable. Therefore now your a, it is minus 23.846 plus your b, it is 0.227 plus 0.227x. So this is the equation of your least square regression, right? 1.2. If the truck driver traveled 550 kilometers, predict the amount of time in minutes that he should rest before continuing his journey, right? So then now the amount of time, it is our variable x, right? Therefore now our y, which is the distance, the amount of time in minutes. If the truck driver traveled 550 kilometers, this is our x, right? It traveled what? 550. This is our x. Therefore now we want to find the time, which is our y. Very good. Therefore now y is equal to minus 23.846 plus 0.227. Our x, it is 550. And then if you punch this into your calculator, therefore now your distance or the amount of time that you rested is 102 minutes 0.65 seconds. So it is 102 minutes 0.65 seconds, right? 1.3. Write down the correlation coefficient of the data. So then that's the r value. You punch your calculator where you have got your a and your b. There's an r there in your calculator. Therefore now you punch r and you punch equal to, therefore now your r is 0.98. Good. Therefore now 1.4. Interpret your answer in question 1.3, right? So then now r is telling us the relationship. Is the relationship stronger? Is the relationship weak between the distance traveled and the amount of rest time? Therefore now, because now if our r is close to 1, therefore now our relationship is positive and strong. If our r is less than 0.5, therefore now our relationship, it is negative and weak, right? Therefore now it is weak, sorry. If our r is greater than 0.5, therefore now our r, it is and we can say it is 0.7 actually. If our r is greater than 0.6, right, or 0.7, therefore now our r, it is strong and relationship, it is positive. But if it is 0.6, we can say it is moderate, right? Right, therefore now because our r is 0.98, therefore now if we comment based on the relationship between the distance traveled and the amount of time that the truck drivers rested, therefore now our relationship is very strong, right? It is very strong. Very good. And then now the relationship, it is positive, right? It is positive. It is positive correlation. It is positive correlation. Very good. 1.5. At each stop, the truck driver spent money buying food and other refreshments. The amount spent in rands is given in the table below. So it is 150, 100, 130, 250, and so forth. 1.5.1, 1.5.1. Calculate the mean amount of the money he spent at each stop. Therefore, now remember, the mean amount is the average, right? So we can add all these 100, 150, 130, 250, 180, 200, and 190. We add them all together and they will give us 1,200. We divide it by the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We divide 1,200 by 8. Therefore, now our average is 150. Or you can even punch this onto your calculator and find your mean. Right, therefore now 1.5.2. It is very much important for you to punch this in your calculator to find the mean, because now the following question in 1.5.2, calculate the standard deviation of the data. It is very simple because now you've already punched this data onto your calculator, you've found your mean. Now it's time to find the standard deviation. You just press it onto your calculator, right? Therefore now the standard deviation is equal to 50.50, right? Therefore now 1.5.3. At how many stops did the driver spend an amount that was less than one standard deviation below the mean? Less than one standard deviation below the mean. Remember, we have that formula which states that it is a mean minus standard deviation and mean plus standard deviation. This is the formula that we use if you want to find within. If the question was saying the driver spend was within one standard deviation, so we were going to use this formula to find the numbers within, right? Within. But now it is less than one standard deviation. Therefore now if it is less, it is mean minus what? Minus standard deviation. Therefore now our mean it is 150 minus our standard deviation, which is 50.50, and the answer is 99.50, right? Therefore now we can say it is one stop, right? It is one stop. How many stops did the driver spend the amount of money that was less than one standard deviation? Remember, this is our 100. Therefore now 99.50 is telling us he spent 100 rands, right, on his first stop. Therefore now it is only one stop that is with fee. Oh no, sorry, that was less than one standard deviation below the mean. Right, let's go to the following question. All right, question 1.1. The data below shows the marks out of 100 obtained by 16 learners in a mathematics test. It was test 1, right? Therefore now we have 67, we have 77, 26, 92. So first things first, this data, it is not in ascending order. Therefore now you first have to arrange the data from the smallest to the largest, right? From the smallest, I think the smallest here is 32, if I'm not mistaken. It is 32. Therefore now 32 has to be our first value. Therefore now the largest value, I think it is 94. Yes, and the 94 has to be our last value. Therefore now it is very much important for you to first group the data in ascending order. Right, 1.1. Calculate the mean mark for the test. Right, therefore now you can punch this information or this data into your calculator to find the mean and the standard deviation, because 1.1.2 they need standard deviation. Right, therefore now manually you can add all these numbers. They will give you 982, and then now you divide by what? By then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. You divide by 16, because remember, when we say mean, we mean the what? The average of these numbers, right? Therefore now average, it is 61.38, right? Therefore now 1.1.2, the standard deviation of the data. If you punch this data into your calculator, you will find the standard deviation as 19.63. Good. Therefore, now 1.1.3. The number of the learners whose marks are outside one standard deviation of the mean. They are outside. They are not within. They are outside one standard deviation of the mean. Right. Therefore, now we go back to that formula. Mean minus standard deviation, mean plus standard deviation. Our mean, it is 61.38 minus our standard deviation, which is 19.63. Our mean, it is 61.38. Our standard deviation, it is 19.63. Right. Therefore, now 61.38 minus 19.63, it is 41.75. Right. And then now 61.38 plus 19.60, it is 81.01. Therefore, now outside 81, right? They are not within. If they were within, we were going to, using this data, we are going to find the numbers or the number of learners who are within 41.75 and 81.01. But now who are outside one standard deviation, therefore now they have to be less than 41.75 and greater than 91.01. If you take time and calculate those learners, we have 88, we have 32, we have 83, we have 94, 92, and so forth. Therefore, now you will find in total it is 6 learners. They are outside one standard deviation, right? 6 learners, they are outside one standard deviation, right? 1.2. So the 16 learners referred in question 1.1 above wrote a second test, which is test 2, right? The box and whisker diagram below shows the distribution of marks obtained by the 16 learners in 2 tests. Therefore, now 1.2.1. Describe the skewness of the marks for test 1. Okay, so then now we can say test 1, they are negatively skewed or skewed to the left. Why? Because there's this gap is larger than what? Than this one. Therefore, now we can say it is negatively skewed. Negatively skewed. Very good. 1.2.2. Which test was easier for learners? Give a reason for your answer. So then now we can say test 2 was easier. Why? Because now the median mark, it is higher, right? The median mark, it is higher than that of test 1. The median mark, it is higher than that of test 1. Therefore, now we can say test 2 was much easier. Or we can say 50% of learners got higher mark than 66 in test 2, right? They got a mark higher than, they got a mark higher than 66 in test 2. And while in test 1, 50% got a mark which is less than 62%, right? Therefore, now test 2 was the test that was easier for most of the learners. Therefore, now we can say it is test 2, right? Because now the median mark, it is higher than that of test 1. The median mark was higher than that of what? Of test 1. Good. Alright, 1.2.3. How many learners scored more than 84% in the second test? Okay. Right, therefore now 1.2.3. How many learners scored more than 84% in the second test? So then now 84% is this line over here. So then now more than, right? More than. Here it is 25%. This is 25%. This is 25%. This This is also 25%. Q1, Q2, Q3, minimum and maximum, right? Therefore, now to find the number of learners who scored than 84%, which is on our Q3, right? Therefore, now here it is 25%, right, of the learners who scored more than 84%, right, from Q3 to the maximum. Therefore, now to find how many learners who scored more than 84% in the second test, it is thus 24% over 100 multiplied by what? By the 16 learners. Remember, this is the data for the 16 learners, right? Multiplied by 16 learners, and then now the number of learners who scored more than 84%, it is only 4 learners. Good. Thank you for watching. If you want more detailed session on statistics, please don't hesitate to WhatsApp or contact the number on the description below.